Okay, good evening. Thank you for coming and welcome to the 6th edition of our PLACEMAKERS speaker series. So we at CMLC designed the speaker series a few years ago in 2015 as really a way to provide an opportunity to examine the different aspects of the master plan that were being delivered in East Village. And so it was an opportunity to provide a community education and engagement initiative that allowed us to explain the elements that were going into the successful transformation of East Village and really provide an opportunity for a voice for all of the amazing, interesting minds, firms, and groups that are participating in the redevelopment of East Village to provide a forum and a platform for those stories to be told. And that's how we arrived at the PLACEMAKERS speaker series. So over the past events, we've talked about everything from public art, the role of public spaces in community, restoration of heritage buildings, the building of the new Central Library program, which is we'll continue to tell over the course of the next year, and respecting our history and lands of which East Village is a part of. And so tonight, we turn our attention to retail and looking at what the retail strategy is for East Village and a portion of it. So we're going to look tonight at the village format portion of our retail strategy, and we'll describe that in more detail for you. So you're going to hear from 5 of our independent business operators who are turning that vision into a reality. We do have one change in our agenda tonight. On your invitation, we had Mikkel Labby, the co-founder of Sidewalk Citizen Bakery, as one of our speakers tonight. She welcomed a new baby recently, so Phil Robertson graciously agreed to join us tonight. He's the co-founder of Phil and Sebastian Coffee Roasters, so you'll hear from him tonight with respect to the Simmons Building. So with the Christmas season upon us, is closer than we like to admit, I think our timing for a retail discussion is well-timed. And you'll hear from a lot of these different dynamic businesses over the course of the next 2 hours. So to kick off, I'm going to invite Susan Beers, our Senior Vice President of Strategy and Business Development, to join me on stage just to give you some background into the retail strategy and development that's unfolding in East Village. So please welcome Susan.
Thank you, everybody. I'm going to be brief because we really want to hear from our tenants. So what I thought I would do is just give you a little bit of context of what the retail strategy is for East Village. And I mean, I know that you know our work in the community, but we don't often talk about our retail strategy. So let me just give you a little context. In 2008, when we were building our research and framework for the master vision of East Village, we hired a consultancy practice out of Vancouver by the name of Thomas Consultants. And their job was really to define for us what we thought our quantum of retail would be, retail development in the area. And back then, way back then, it was imagined that we could accommodate in the 15 master blocks of East Village about 280,000 square feet of retail development. And so CMLC went to work selling land and getting ready for residential move-in. And in 2011, we decided there was so much happening in the downtown core, and there were other projects that had stalled. We thought that we should probably go back to some consultants and talk to them about what really was the opportunity for retail development. And to our surprise, the retail development almost doubled. So it really went from 288,000 square feet of opportunity to 440,000 square feet of opportunity. And there were lots of reasons for that, but one of the reasons was that retail development that had been anticipated in the core actually had not happened. So we took advantage of that opportunity and called out what I describe as a hybrid strategy. And that hybrid strategy is urban format and village format. So imagine that we are going to business now attracting 2 different channels of operation. A village format retailer and an urban format retailer. You're going to say, well, what are those? An urban format retail approach is a destination-styled retailer, somebody that you would find on a main street, a high street, somebody with amazing access. And so if you can think of 4th Street as our primary vehicular connector in East Village, it shouldn't surprise you that the lion's share of urban format is on 4th Street. And you see that manifesting itself right now in the project that RioCan is building called 5th and 3rd. The village format program is defined differently. It's niche retail. It is character-defining retail. It is that which builds the community from the context of our brand and gives us a sense of place and personality. And so the buildings that CMLC owns in East Village, which is this building, the Simmons Building, the heritage building across the street called the Hillier Building. And when we started this program, we actually owned the King Eddie. So we had 4 heritage buildings. And so that was important at the time to understand what opportunities we have to realize village format retail solutions in the environments that we owned. So you saw what we did with the Simmons, and you're going to hear from some of our Simmons tenants today. Right now, in the building across the street, we're using that for the Library Foundation. But when the Library Foundation moves out into the library, you'll see we have a different approach for what's going to happen in that building. And this very space that you're sitting in right now, this is being taken to market right now. And so at the end of November, we're going to start talking about what type of restaurant operator we want on this floor and in the basement. So that is village and urban format. That has been our strategy. We have a lot of retail that we're delivering right now, but tonight's conversation is all around village format, so that niche retail that gives us our personality. So I'm going to turn it back to Claire, and she can introduce our speakers. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Susan. So let's start with the Simmons Building. As Susan mentioned, the building has written a new chapter for itself, and the once for-long historic building on the edge of the Bow River now has a new lease on life, and it really has become a destination in the community thanks to the efforts and commitment of our partners operating the building. So tonight our first speaker is Phil Robertson, co-founder of Phil and Sebastian Coffee Roasters, to describe how the Simmons is fostering a sense of community in East Village. Phil co-founded Phil and Sebastian in 2007, and his obsession from the beginning has been improving coffee quality from seed to cup. Leveraging his engineering past, he built a custom roasting machine and modified numerous pieces of coffee-making equipment. He co-directs the company alongside Sebastian with a focus on operations, strategic planning, and community relations. He also travels a few times a year to Africa for buying green coffee. So please join me in welcoming Phil Robertson.
Hi. I'm just taking it on my phone, not to check my Instagram, but because it's my timer. How do I get my slides?
There's a clicker up there.
All right. So, thank you for the introduction. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks everyone for coming. What I'm going to talk about today is a little bit about the history of our company, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about community as it relates to our business and to some extent to me. So let's start a little bit with some history. So myself and Sebastian co-founded Phil and Sebastian Coffee Roasters 10 years ago. It's our 10th anniversary this year, so 2007. Feels like an eternity ago, for me at least. It was very humble beginnings. We started in the Calgary Farmers Market in the Curry Barracks. Does anyone ever remember that place? Very cool market, which is ironically still standing today, so we could have still been there. Such is life. We had a kiosk there that we built on a very minimal budget and very sort of simple beginnings. And in 2009, so that was 2007, we opened that. In 2009, we opened our roasting operation, and that was in East Inglewood. And then 2010, myself and Sebastian started traveling to coffee farms, specifically to meet coffee farmers and learn about that part of the process. And then 2010 is also, back in 2009, we opened our first full-time cafe in Lottie Loop. 2010, we opened a cafe in Chinook Center, the expansion of Chinook Center. 2012, we opened our cafe in Mission on 4th Street. And then, of course, 2015, opened the East Village, the Simmons. And then just this last December, we opened downtown on Stephen Avenue. So it's been kind of a flurry. It's all a bit of a blur in some ways. That's sort of just a bit of the background of the company. I wanted to just give you some context for my relationship with community. So when we first started our company, I was what I might call a coffee aficionado. So I love coffee, I brewed coffee at home. My former life, I was an engineer. So I worked in the high-tech world, I was a software developer. And I remember very distinctly that in the morning, I'd get my hand grinder and I'd go to the office kitchen and I'd grind the coffee and I'd brew the coffee. It was this very ritualistic process. And I'd go back to my desk and I'd drink the coffee. I just, I have very poignant memories of how it tasted. And it sort of, at that time, was becoming clear that that's the direction I should probably take my life, just given the fact that that's the thing I remember most significantly. So, but for me in the beginning, because of this sort of aficionado, that's where I came from, my vision when starting our company, and this is Sebastian's vision too, was let's bring amazing coffee to Calgary. That was the vision. And it still is the vision today, but that initial beginning was so product focused. I was like, I just want to make coffee as good as it can. I'd be at the farmer's market until 3 in the morning, working on different techniques to make my coffee taste better. And it was really just driven by product quality. And for those people that I thank that had the patience to come to the farmer's market and wait an absurd amount of time in line, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, it was, we never get away with that now. Thank you, first of all, for your patience. That was, again, so focused on, I gotta just make sure that coffee is, perfect for everyone. And then in time, as I started to develop a better business sense and started to develop better perspective, I started to change our phrasing. So that phrase of, let's bring amazing coffee to Calgary became, let's bring Calgary amazing coffee. And it's a subtle difference, but I think it's really important because what it starts to introduce is this idea of community. So just one quick thing back about the farmer's market before I get more into East Village. So the farmer's market, where we began, without really realizing, it became this amazing community. So even now, I go to the farmer's market moved to Blackfoot, but I go there and I have relationships with vendors now and people that still work there. We're friends, and I go back there and I kind of now have such an appreciation for the community that we formed in that environment. And I'll tell you, I did not appreciate it at the time. I made great friendships and that was nice, but I didn't appreciate the power of that community, the support of the community and the impact that it could have. So that, in many ways, that experience has given me an appreciation for the value of community. East Village. So I'll tell you a little bit about how we came to be in East Village. Back in 2012, we were approached by a consultant hired by CMLC to consider a retail location, not in the Simmons Building, but actually in some of the new developments. And at the time, the CMLC office was in the Simmons Building. Of course, it's now here. But we went to the Simmons Building and we had a meeting there. And I said, wow, this is amazing. This building is so beautiful. And I actually have this is a true story. No one will believe me, but it's a true story. About 10 years ago, so actually just before the business started, I drove past the Simmons Building and I thought, wouldn't that be an amazing place for a coffee roastery? Just like a fleeting thought, true story. Anyway, so we're in the Simmons Building and we had a great meeting and we were all, sort of pitched on this opportunity for retail. And we left the meeting like, the Simmons is where we gotta be. This building's amazing. And so we knew that it was too big for us to occupy alone. So we kind of thought, Sebastian and I, who can we talk to, who can we bring to the table? So we approached our friends, Michaela and Aviv from Sidewalk Citizen and John and Connie from, at the time, Charcut. And we asked them, would you be interested in co-pitching this concept together? Because this building's amazing, you have to see it. We just need to be a part of this. And to some extent, the rest is history. But we were able to put together this pitch package and graciously, we were given the opportunity to open there, and it's been an amazing journey ever since. And I feel every day I walk into that building, I feel privileged to be in this piece of Calgary history, this amazing, beautiful space, and I feel, just overwhelmed with gratitude. So that's a little bit about how I got into East Village. the Simmons, just wanted to talk a little bit about the team that we formed at the Simmons. And I can't take credit for this tagline, one team, one dream. That's actually John Jackson, the founder of Char Bar. And he came up with this idea right at the very beginning. And the notion of it is just simply that the Simmons has no walls. And if you guys have ever been in there, you'll see that it's a bit confusing actually the first time you walk in. Like, what's this about? Hopefully only the first time. But basically we decided, let's not put walls between us. Let's just have this free-flowing, almost like market-like concept where you can really kind of feel the energy between each of us and flow between each of us and really have this one team, one dream. So that's been interesting. There's obviously challenges. We're all very strong-willed individuals and driven, and so we've definitely had to overcome a few collaborative challenges. But I'm happy to report that it's been really positive results on the other side of it. But mostly, it's reminded me of the importance of community and the power of being able to collaborate. And being in the same space is obviously very natural, that sense of collaboration, but I think the East Village at large, there's opportunities to have that kind of synergy, especially between like the village type operators, where it's projects with passion. We're doing this because we love what we're doing and we're passionate about it. It's more than just making money or a paycheck. So I think the concept of this collaboration in Simmons and this community that I've had the privilege of forming between Sidewalk Citizen and Char Bar can extend beyond those walls. So I wanted to talk a little bit about community as it pertains to my business. So as I've run cafes, I've come to realize that we're almost like an amenity. You think about a cafe, like imagine, okay, you have your work, you have your home, but where do you go when you just want to hang out? You don't want to go home, you don't want to go to work. You don't maybe feel like it's not quite time to have beer quite yet. Maybe it's the morning, some people drink in the morning, that's okay. But let's say you don't want to. So you want to go hang out, and a cafe is a very natural choice. So in many ways, it's sort of become this third place and this amenity, this focal point for community. And I truthfully never thought about this when we opened our cafe. I knew I enjoyed frequenting cafes myself for this exact purpose, but I never really thought about it as like a community hub or this almost like amenity. And it's become so important to me that this is what our cafes have become. And when I see people, and we did this specific style at Simmons, we created these communal tables, so that you kind of need to get to know your neighbors a little bit. And so the idea was, again, to foster this community and have people come together over coffee and ideas. And I think it's just been a really neat thing to see this unfold and to see that attraction of people to that space and the community that's created. So just want to talk a little bit about some other stuff that we've been working on. First of all, this slide is entitled Giving Back, but this is a bit controversial. I think I might be against philanthropy. Is that controversial? Very, right? But let me explain why. I think it's amazing. Philanthropy is amazing, and I put this slide in actually partially because tomorrow is International Philanthropy Day. You guys know about this? I mean, there's sort of an international day for everything, but tomorrow's Philanthropy Day, and I have been invited by the Calgary Drop-In Center to go to their table at the BMO Center for this dinner, philanthropy dinner. I'll explain about that in one sec. But back to the controversial statement. So. And this has taken me a while to form this opinion, but I believe that if we undertake ethical business, then we don't even need philanthropy. I believe that I'll take it in the context of my own company. So we're a coffee company, and one of the really important things, of course, we do is buy coffee. And we buy that coffee from coffee farmers. And I've had the privilege to be able to go to hundreds of coffee farms and travel around the world to these different places. And I go to Africa myself a couple times a year. And Sebastian, he's from Argentina, so his first language is Spanish. We quickly realized that he was a lot more useful at coffee, those Spanish-speaking countries than me. So we go to these countries and we're building relationships. But one of the things I see firsthand is the power of good business. And if you guys heard of fair trade, so I'm not a believer in fair trade either, also controversial. But I believe it's something called thrive trade, because I actually think fair is not enough. I think fair is like the minimum standard. So thrive trade, this term that I coined, thank you. Thrive trade is about like making sure that a coffee farmer is economically thriving. So not just getting by, not just fair amounts, but like really, really thriving. And if we can put them in the position where they're thriving by paying them a premium price, working with them to solve quality problems, so they have more consistent quality, solving some logistics problems. We've done microfinancing also at the farm level. If we can do these things and we can create an environment for thriving, then we should secure ourselves a supply of coffee into the future, which is obviously fantastic for us. We create an environment where these coffee farmers have a really good, successful business, and we collectively have a very symbiotic relationship. And I would argue that with this type of situation, there doesn't need to be any giveaways. There doesn't need to be handouts. There doesn't need to be donations. These are very poor countries, but these people can thrive in this type of environment. So maybe I'm naive, but I believe if this was the approach to business, then we actually wouldn't need philanthropy, or we wouldn't need to the same extent this type of approach. So I'm going to take back my controversial statement, because I actually believe in philanthropy. I think it's fantastic, but I believe that maybe it wouldn't be as necessary if there was this notion of really ensuring that all sides of the equation are thriving and not squeezing pennies out of the dollar. So that's ended my rant about coffee buying practices. So back to giving back. So we came up with this idea of what do we do with those coffee batches that like aren't quite right. And we roast a lot of coffee, so unfortunately, I hate to say it, but we do roast some coffee that's just not quite right. And we can't, in good conscience, not see that go to a good place. And so we started donating the coffee to the drop-in center, and this is like many, many years ago. And about like 3 or 4 years into this process, I get a phone call from the drop-in center to place a coffee order. I'm like, what's going on here? They're placing orders. Obviously, we're donating a lot of coffee. So I went by and I had to chat with them, and it turns out we donated like $30,000 worth of coffee over the course of these 4 years. And the funny thing is, like, it didn't start out as a way to do a really good thing. It started out as a way to make sure that we were only putting the top quality of coffee in the hands of the people buying it. But it turned into this amazing thing, and now we're fully supporting the drop-in center, and we're donating to them exclusively. And I think we're at like $100,000 now as the value of coffee, and that's why I'm getting invited to the philanthropist dinner tomorrow. But I feel like a little bit of not a fraud, but like I feel like a little undeserving, because this whole thing started with a way to make sure that we maintain quality, but oddly it turned into something I think is really great, and I'm actually really proud of. So I'm really proud that, and I've had some people approach me from there saying they're really grateful that they have some hot coffee, because they don't get a lot. So anyway, it's just funny how things can, perhaps your mind is thinking about it in a certain way, but your perspective could change. And that's a form of community, right? That's what I have to say tonight. So thank you so much. It's so hard for me to speak for 15 minutes. I wish I could take an hour. But I don't know if you guys would all stay awake. But thank you so much. I hope this was interesting and you learned something. And have a great night.
Okay, thank you, Phil. I'm going to remember to use this clicker to advance everyone's slides, I think I speak on behalf of my colleagues at CMLC that we did start in the Simmons Building many years ago, and I think the bittersweet part of moving out of that space to make way for Phil and Sebastian and the rest of the team was knowing that was who was moving in there. So it was a bittersweet moment for us, and they've kept us fueled and going since 2015, so we're grateful for that. Our next speakers tonight are the ladies behind Liz and Lottie, one of our newest retailers at the base of the Evolution Towers in East Village. Nikki, Maas, and Heidi Blanchette have curated a beautiful specialty retail experience in the village with a selection of jewelry, housewares, creative gifts, and the perfect selection of clever, maybe a little cheeky cards, just to name a few. Liz and Lottie opened in July 2016, but their store was years in the making. Nikki and Heidi were both in unfulfilling jobs and wanted something more for their future. So they say one evening while commiserating about those jobs over a bottle of tequila, the vision of Liz and Lottie was born. They decided to name the shop after their grandmothers because they were two women who had great influence on them, and they'll speak to you about that tonight. So join me in welcoming Nikki and Heidi.
Opened in July of 2016. So we carry a wide variety of products from home accents to fashion accessories to baby and pet gifts. So basically anything we would want to buy for ourselves, we bring it to the store.
We like to support other local businesses as much as we can, so we carry a mix of local and locally sourced product.
Our aim is to be a one-stop shop for residents and visitors of East Village. So if you can't find it here, then you don't need it. Take it when you don't need it.
Okay, so who are Liz and Lottie? So we get asked this all the time, and to set the record straight, I am not Liz.
And I'm not Lottie or Liz.
They are grandmothers. So Liz is my Oma. I am incredibly fortunate to have grown up with her as a role model. As a first-generation Canadian on both sides of my family, I always wanted to take advantage of the opportunities that come with the privilege of being Canadian.
Lottie is my grandmother, and so after high school, I got a diploma in business with the intention of starting my own company, and I always wanted to incorporate my grandma's name somehow. But after graduating, I realized that I needed to live and earn a real income. You can't just get out of school and start your own business. So I had to get a real job. So I had started working in the finance industry, and after 16 years of that, I kind of led to my quarter/midlife crisis. And so I took a bit of a break from that, and so the business idea had to kind of be set aside. And during my break, I realized that was my chance to actually stop thinking about it and actually do it.
So as you can see, our grandmothers were two women who had a big influence on us, and we decided that there's no better way to honor them and what they built for our families than by getting into crippling debt. But honestly, feeling as though they are watching over us every day while we work motivates us to keep pushing through all the ups and downs that come with starting your own business.
Didn't work. Okay, so how did Liz and Lottie come to life? Well, I think this picture says it all if you know us at all.
We like to dabble in the occasional cocktail.
So we used to work together in the mortgage industry and often commiserated before, during, after work, morning drinker. Over a shot of tequila. I'm not even kidding. I carried the stash of shot glasses at my desk, and Nikki had the bottle of tequila at her desk, which now I realize is not a fair trade, but they were just there. She got the bottle of tequila.
So just in case you were starting to think we were a couple of delinquents, we really were good at our jobs. Our boss even bought us a bottle of tequila for beer Fridays, but that just wasn't enough to keep us in jobs that we were less than passionate about. We both knew that we were ready for a change, so one night, naturally after a few cocktails, and while I was talking Heidi off of her ledge during her break, we decided it was time to take the next step in our relationship.
That sounds romantic.
And we became business partners.
I mean, really, it was the perfect storm. We were in the middle of a recession, we were drinking all the time, I was on this ledge, apparently, so the timing could have been better.
And I don't know why people thought we were crazy walking away from secure, decent paying salary jobs that even had vacation days.
Oh, I remember vacation days.
I don't remember vacations at
It's
all.
so far away. But in all honesty, it was us some nights. I'm just kidding.
She's not. She comes in with a red puppy face all the time.
It's kind of rude. But that didn't stop us from jumping in.
So the next question was, where do we start? What business would make sense? Could we pursue that other people would love just as much as we do?
So in our brainstorming, we realized that in addition to our love of tequila, we also share a love of shopping and gifting. Like, I absolutely love finding the perfect gift for someone and watching their reaction as they open it.
And I love receiving gifts. This felt like a really good partnership.
After that last comment, anyone getting gifts from me? Ever. I digress. There were several stores in Calgary that we liked certain things about, or we felt there wasn't a store that had it all. So naturally we thought we could just go like, yeah, why not?
It's easy, right? No. So we didn't know where to start or how to start, but luckily we aren't afraid of hard work. So it was 2 years of planning, researching, educating, crying, yelling, laughing, and
Don't forget drinking. Don't forget drinking.
I feel like I don't need to mention that. What did I say? We weren't drinking. Either way, we made it, we opened our doors, and we haven't looked back.
So why did we choose the East Village? Well, why not?
Is safety sometimes a concern?
Well, yeah, but let's be honest, any business kind of deals with safety issues. Good thing we like to live on the edge, or a wedge like me, or at least I used to live on the wedge. But the East Village has come a long way from where it was even 5 years ago, and it's just going to get better. It's a never-ending construction frustration.
Yeah. But it means there's growth, which means more amenities, more jobs, more housing, and more Liz and Lottie customers.
Yay, more customers!
But seriously though, we chose the East Village because we saw an opportunity to truly become part of a community that values and promotes independent small business. The East Village has been designed with the spirit of small business at its forefront, and it draws people who understand and appreciate that.
So we completely saw beyond the East Village of the past and solely focused on the East Village of the future. People often tell us when they come that they don't feel like they're in Calgary when they're visiting the neighborhood. The East Village has created its own vibe and new identity, which is attracting people from all corners of the city. It's so exciting to be a part of something like this and watching it grow. Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. So how did we build our brand? Branding has always been a struggle for us. Like, we barely can speak eloquently while trying to get our ideas across.
And that's why we have help. So we are huge advocates of letting experts do what they do best. So before we opened, we hired a branding company to create the basics, like our logo, our website, and our social media presence.
What they taught us in the year of working with them is that our brand is actually us.
Weird.
It's very, very concept to us.
So we actually wanted to be behind the scenes, letting the product speak for itself, which would in turn create a customer experience. But we learned that the customer experience actually starts before they come to the store. So how do we do that? We had to get in front of the camera and plaster ourselves all over social media, which is my worst nightmare.
We fought tooth and nail not to be on camera because shockingly, if you can't already tell by our red faces and shaky voices, we are very shy people.
But then you can't get me off camera.
It's true, you cannot. But we've learned that people crave connection and relatability. It's far easier to have that with a person than with a product. I mean, you can buy a small bottle version anywhere, so what sets us apart from any other store? People feel like they already know us through social media, so when they come in and see us both working, they instantly feel a connection, which makes it a more personal shopping experience.
Feedback we've received so far about our social media shenanigans so far have been far greater than we ever expected, and we're realizing more and more every day how important social media is and how important we are as the face of our business, as scary as that is to think about.
But with all that being said, every business has to do what works well for them. What works for our competition may not work for us. I mean, we love a pretty photo and a great flat lay, but that's just not our
So,
style.
I mean, how would you post a nice, gorgeous photo beside a video of us playing bumper cars in an inflatable flamingo, or Nikki wearing a garbage bag so she doesn't spill wine on herself? That actually happened. So, what are some of the challenges and opportunities that come with building a marketing strategy for a small business? So some of the marketing challenges that we have faced are straight up marketing itself.
It is a language we are not fluent in.
No. So there's a lot more to it than you might think. Although we like leaving things to the professionals, much of our marketing we could not afford to outsource. So we chose to invest a lot of our time and money into the free and low-cost options such as Instagram, Facebook, which I hate, and cross promotions. So being the face of of our business seems really easy because it's free, but it does take a lot of time to put together. The planning can be very extensive, especially this time of year.
Visibility has also been a challenge for us. We envisioned a cute little storefront with a cute little sign in the window and maybe a signage board on the sidewalk. And we thought that big overhead signage would maybe take away from the charm of the space, but we didn't realize until after we opened that our windows are so painfully tinted that you can't really see inside the store. So all we get are people's faces like pushed up against the window.
We actually had to reduce our marketing budget so we could increase our window washing budget to get the forehead imprints on the windows.
So we're sure foot traffic would be even greater if we were more visible to passersby, but given the price tag of over $6,000 or so per sign, it's not quite a measurable expense for us at this stage.
Another challenge is that we're located at the base of a condo building, and the condo board does not allow any of the business to advertise in the building. So we actually have several residents that don't know we even exist, and we've been there almost a year and a half now. So
What?
I know, right? So we've looked into doing direct mail outs through Canada Post, but their version of direct is not quite, it's quite broad, because they have 3 different mail carriers that cover the East Village along with other neighboring communities. So we can't actually isolate just the East Village itself. And not to mention it's very expensive, and when I get the mail in my house, the flyers usually go right into the recycling bin.
So with having a low marketing budget, we've become creative in finding opportunities to get our name out there. We can't advertise in the condo building, but we have been able to support the East Village Neighborhood Association through advertising in the East Village newsletter.
We've collaborated with our neighbors for giveaways, cross promotions, which has allowed us to reach their social media audience.
We've seen a huge increase in pop-up requests, which is another great way to support small businesses in the city that may only have an online presence. And it's a win-win that doesn't cost anything but a little bit of our space, and in turn we get to reach their social media followers.
Influencers and bloggers are also a great resource. They both need content to write about, and we need exposure. So we have hosted successful shopping events in the past and extended the invitation to influencers and bloggers, which is a great way for them to get the Liz and Lottie experience, and in turn they share their local love, and we get to reach their followers.
As you can see, a lot of our marketing strategy is online based, but we are always evolving, incorporating new ideas. Just like us, our marketing strategy is a work in progress. We're still trying to figure it out. So how has the surrounding mix of retailers helped to strengthen our operations? We have the most amazing neighbors.
They are so awesome.
Often people are visiting the East Village for the first time since the redevelopment, and they're curious to learn what else is around us. We are surrounded by great businesses, which makes it really easy to make recommendations and promote our fellow entrepreneurs.
A prime example of this is the Brewer Salon. They're located directly across the street from us, and we can't even count how many regular customers we have gained just simply from a hair appointment. We try to collaborate with other businesses in the neighborhood wherever we can, whether it's doing a cross promotion, social media campaign, or giveaway, or us eating treats for an event. We always try to reach out to an East Village business first.
But most importantly, we are very, very, very aware that at this stage, we don't currently have any direct competition.
And we like to keep it like that.
CMLC. And that is all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies. So if you haven't visited their store already, I encourage you to do so. They have an amazing selection of Christmas decor that's just gone out, and it's a great way to kick off the season. So shifting gears a little bit, from coffee and boutique stores now to craft beer. Mike Ward is the co-founder of the Brewer's Apprentice, directly next door to us. The idea for a growler bar developed on an annual road trip to Washington. As a craft beer lover, Mike was looking for a place to sample some local brews and came across a unique growler bar concept. At the time, he didn't realize just how vibrant Alberta's craft beer scene would soon become. In just a few short years, he and his partner saw the brewing culture in Alberta shift dramatically. And suddenly an Alberta-focused growler bar seemed like it could be a real possibility. That's when the real work started. But with a lot of effort and a little luck, they secured 10 committed investors, a killer central location, and 5 absolutely amazing staff. The Brewer's Apprentice officially opened its doors earlier this year in July. Mike loves foosball, Excel spreadsheets. His wife Ashley and daughter Adelaide. He is one part entrepreneur, one part part beer lover, two parts geek, and most importantly, many parts husband and father. So join me in welcoming my board.
Thank you, and hi everyone. So as mentioned, my name is Mike Ward, and I'm one of the founders of Brewer's Apprentice. We've officially been open for 4 months, so we're the rookie in the room, and anything I talk about after this that sounds like advice, I'd probably not take it. So although open for 4 months, obviously we've been planning this for a couple of years. It's funny, most of the time that you get a chance to speak to someone, people talk about, well, what's your elevator pitch? You've got 30 seconds or 15 words. So when the CMLC asked me to speak here for 10 minutes, I thought, shit, what am I going to do with the other 9.5 minutes? So what I'm going to fill my time with here is, when I read through the questions the CMLC asked me to kind of address, I thought, well, this is kind of similar to what I used to convince my partners or my friends that are now my partners to invest in the Brewer's Apprentice. So like I said, these are all my opinions. This is not a business textbook, and I'm only been open for 4 months. But in my opinion, you need 4 things to create a successful and enduring retail business. First, of course, you need an idea. Second, you need a market. Third, you need an absolutely amazing team to execute it. And finally, you need the right timing. So, the idea, or an overview of our business. We're a beer shop, a tasting station, and education center, all located under one roof. Our vision is to be a destination where seasoned beer lovers can share their enthusiasm, and new craft beer fans can learn a bit more about the magical mix of malt, yeast, hops, and water. Our mission is simple. It's to provide a unique experience through a well-curated list of craft beers and sharing knowledge and passion that we have for beer to our customers. So next up, you need a market. This is where I see one of the biggest opportunities for our shop and for craft beer in Alberta. It's incredible to think about actually, but in 2014, there were only 18 brewing licenses in Alberta. If you fast forward now to March of this year, there were 54 licenses. And I did a quick search this morning, and I can see, if you include ones that are planned, 77. So if you take a second to think about that, it's pretty hard to think of any industry in Alberta that in less than 4 years has grown by over 400%. So one of the major reasons behind the expansion of craft beer in Alberta, and there are a bunch, but one of the major reasons that I'm going to talk about is Calgarians and Albertans' desire for more of a local product. So more than ever, Calgarians want to know and meet and have a relationship with the people who are making their coffee or baking their bread, or in the case of craft beer, who's brewing their beer. And then the really neat part about the craft beer industry is that it's not only just the brewers that are an interesting group and really exciting to meet, but Alberta, and I'm going to have to read this so I don't mess this up, but produces close to 1 million tons of world-renowned malt and barley. So needless to say, we have a connection right to our farmers. And needless to say, a world-class barley makes world-class beer. So in our case, we have this Lottie market that's coming right up behind us here, and a great success story in a time when Alberta wasn't necessarily known for having them. So having the right market, I think, was easy to pitch to my partners and friends. And so now to the question why we choose the East Village, and I think that was also an easy pitch to my friends. You can see, you've heard a little bit about the retail vision of the community. The master plan of the East Village fits our target market perfectly. Borrowing from the words at CMLC, Calgary's East Village is where the future of city life is unfolding. The streets and lanes of the East Village are intended to be places for people, designed to provide vibrant and active urban environment. So I truly believe that with the CMLC behind this vision, over the next 10 years, the East Village will be one of the most dynamic and exciting communities for retailer demand. So this is a huge opportunity to be part of. As the East Village grows, it will attract people who crave a more unique shopping experience. The mix of artisan shops, restaurants, and cafes will draw people in search of socializing and a more personal touch to their shopping experience. So for us, this is great because we want to take, like, I truly get tired when I have to go to the mall and go shopping. But the beer run, to me, that is a sacred weekly experience. So I want to take that experience, be able to share that with all of our customers who come into the space. So a little dramatic, I'm sure the beer run's not that important to everyone, but you guys get the point. Okay, so the next question on the list is what strategies have you deployed to build awareness for your business when attracting guests into your space? This is my third point to my partners, and mostly it's an amazing team. So from the time you step into the shop to the time you leave, our staff's mission is to simplify the craft beer experience by sharing their knowledge, by sampling the best beers in the city, and by going above and beyond to connect customers to our great craft brewery in Alberta. Sometimes it's really just as easy as pointing them down the road to Cold Garden or to Highline in Inglewood. And if you've ever visited our location, I hope this resonates with you. I can honestly say that we have the best team in the city. And all of them would agree there's nothing better than a new customer leaving with a hidden gem, discovering a new style, or finding a local brewery that they hadn't yet found to check out. Luckily enough, these days you can throw a rock and likely hit a new brewery in Alberta. So don't get me wrong, we use marketing at any and all means possible. We do social media, we do direct mail, we're on the radio right now, but our staff are the reason why people keep coming back. Okay, finally, and last point. Timing is, in my opinion, maybe aside from staff, the most important part of getting a retail shop set up and hopefully being able to do it. So this is a huge opportunity in the East Village because getting to be number one in because of the support of the CMLC and the support of our other local retailers in the area. So depending on who you ask, craft beer right now makes up 3 to 5% of beer sales in Alberta. So as you can see, it's still a really small market of all the beers that are being sold out there. If you look comparatively to our neighbors, British Columbia, it's about 25%. And if you go down to where I used to do my annual road trips, the majority of beer is sold. That's sold is craft. So there's a lot of room to grow. When you combine our local food movement, you combine where the barley's coming from, and you combine with the momentum of the breweries that are how fast they're coming up here, there's room. The big question though is the pace that this happens. So will beer drinkers, will their taste evolve fast enough? While we're waiting, is the East Village going to develop fast enough that we'll have enough people to support our retail store? These are all questions that my partners and I always love to beat up during over a beer. One answer that I can leave you with, though, is since coming to the East Village, the support from the other retailers is clear. My daughter wears a lot of clothes from Liz and Lottie. I drink a lot of coffees at Phil and Sebastian's, eat a lot of dinners during construction at Char Bar, and it's been amazing. They send people to our place all the time. And hopefully that they know that I try to send people back there just as much. So with the CMLC behind this retail vision and the people that we have speaking today, I think that there's a great group of retailers that we're up for the challenge and the responsibility of developing this retail vision with the CMLC. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Do I have a room full of thirsty people who are ready to go shopping now? I imagine. So our last speaker tonight is our very own Joanna Pesta from CMLC. Joanna joined our team in March 2016 as the manager of programming and events for the community, and since that time has been instrumental in the delivery of all the different activities and programs that take place in East Village year over year. But she's brought her passion for local initiatives and community building to the team, and just this year she was the mind curator and project manager behind East Village Junction, the pop-up retail container park that was just across the street from us. It was Calgary's first innovative shipping container shopping hub, and she's going to describe that for you tonight. She comes to our team with 7 years of creating enriching campus life experiences for the Students Association at Mount Royal University, and her dedication continues into the community with her volunteer volunteer work as a board member on TEDx YYC's committee. She's equipped with a BA in sociology from the U of C and an event management certificate from MRU. So Joanna has a solid foundation in which she has grown the events and programming strategy in the community year over year. So tonight, join me in welcoming Joanna to learn more about East Village Junction.
So beginning in November of 2016, our team embarked on this crazy project. We thought, could we build a pop-up retail park? Now known as East Village Junction, our retail park opened June 1st in 2017 and operated Thursday through Sunday all summer until October 1st of 2017. It included 11 retailers, one East Village storytelling container, an arts partner, and a vibrant community gathering space. And I also just want to take a moment to call out Lori and Tom Rath, who were one of our amazing tenants, and they had Rath Bicycle this summer. So, why temporary retail? Where did it all begin, and why did we feel that temporary retail was a good fit for East Village? There are three main reasons that we pursued this project. One, retail in itself. Retail and services are an essential part of a vibrant community, and retail influences people's desires to live in a community. We have many new residential buildings, and at this point we have limited retail options, many of whom we met today, but we saw an opportunity to fill a gap with a temporary execution. We're waiting for more retail to come into East Village, and as Susan mentioned, we're waiting for our urban format retail space, 5th and 3rd, to open in early 2020. So there was this amazing opportunity here. We also saw this as a great opportunity to support our new and existing retailers in East Village by bringing more people to the community to both explore and shop. The second main reason was placemaking. CMLC has invested in placemaking in East Village for the past 10 years. Placemaking fosters a sense of community through events and programs that activate the neighborhood, and we strive to create meaningful experiences that add to the vitality and wellness of the community. Ideally, this creates compelling reasons to live in or spend time in East Village. We hope that these experiences encourage people to either take an immediate action of purchasing or renting within the existing residential inventory in East Village, or that people will aspire to live in East Village in the future. And the third piece is brand storytelling. We are continually looking for ways to build the East Village story and brand. As part of this, we manage a cooperative marketing program that is funded by our East Village developers. Through this program, we create compelling reasons for people to follow our EV story. We bring people into the East Village community to see the progress as we continue to develop the area. And in this case, we were also seeking an opportunity to continue our East Village storytelling using our existing trained ambassadors. So we were looking for a new location that would allow them to reach a new audience. So how did we start? As with all good projects, you always start with research. We looked into what other examples of temporary retail exist around the world, and we found many markets that were built using modular construction. This style of construction lends itself to a temporary activation, so it really felt like a good fit for us. Some of the amazing examples include the ones on the screen here. So the one on the left is from a project called Restart in Christchurch, and you can see that they have the same desire for bright colors as East Village does. And then the one on the right is from a market in Brooklyn, and you can kind of recognize our layout design through that format. We also performed retailer and consumer research. So this was really the huge launch of our program, which was in January when we released our online survey. We had a total of 175 local retailers and 325 consumers complete our survey. For retailers, we asked questions like, what kind of amenities are you looking for in a market? What are your ideal operating hours? What do you think are reasonable rental rates for this space and in this area? For consumers, we ask questions like, what time of day do you go shopping? What kind of products do you shop for? Who do you like shopping with? And then we also ask this question, what do you like about markets? in which you can see some of the top answers where they want variety with unique local products. Through this research, we found some commonalities that drove how we pursued this initiative. Many people wanted to see local and innovative businesses. They found that they wanted a central community gathering location or a courtyard. They wanted unique food offerings, and they wanted the space activated through events and programming. We then brought on some suppliers and partners to help us with this vision. These partners include YYC Food Trucks, who curated our rotating selection of food trucks, offering that unique food. We brought on Springboard Performance as our arts partner. They allowed us to have a great connection with the theater community, dance, and music communities. And we also brought on CCAN Store, our local expert on containers. They were able to provide us with our used 20-foot shipping containers and also performed all of the modifications that we needed on these containers. So how do we execute this idea? I'll just touch briefly on construction because we're really here to talk about retail. But we were really fortunate within our CMLC team to have an amazing group of experienced people that could help to bring together the initial concept and design of the East Village Junction space. We also had recently purchased a parcel of land at the corner of 8th Avenue and 4th Street and had no immediate use for the space. So we saw this as a great opportunity to activate that location and also build on a sense of community in this area. We then engaged the work of an architect firm and engineering firm to help us finalize the designs and ensure that we met building safety requirements for these containers. And we worked really closely with the City of Calgary and other licensing groups to ensure that we were above par on all of our permitting and that we met those building safety requirements correctly. One of the cool things about working with modular construction, shipping containers, is that most of the container build happened at the CCAN Store site in Calgary. And so what this meant is that for everyone moving in and around East Village, it looked like this happened super quick. So from paving this land with asphalt to opening it, it all happened in less than a month during the month of May. The other big piece of execution was finding the right retail mix. So as a result of our research, we created a vision for a combination of day-to-day products and services, those appealing primarily to our existing East Village residents, combined with local craft goods and apparel that would reach a wider audience. Therefore, we curated retailers who could provide fresh produce, specialty food items, bicycle rental sales and repairs, and then we also looked for streetwise apparel, artisan goods including jewelry, and handcrafted cell phone cases. We also wanted to ensure that the businesses that we brought into East Village Junction would be complementary to the existing East Village businesses and not competitive to them. The other major piece of our plan was that we wanted a recognized national brand who could execute an exceptional local level retail location. For this, we were really happy to bring on Lululemon, who within their container were able to offer specialty branded goods and also added to the vibrancy of our space by offering 3 times a week fitness programming. Let's take a look at what East Village Junction brought to our community. I still love that video. As you can see, we're really happy with the success of East Village Junction. We were able to create a shopping destination for Calgarians and tourists alike, and we're really proud to have had 48,000 visitors visit East Village Junction over the 4 months of activation. We also were able to build some infrastructure and programming investment that activated East Village Junction and created memorable experiences. Programming was an essential part of our success with East Village Junction. We had something going on every day, everything from the Lululemon Run Club, to Calgary Public Library pop-ups, to afternoon singer-songwriters with their voices in the village. Even within this, we were able to bring a East Village resident and jazz musician who lives just next door in N3, Deanne Matley, who became a quick fan favorite at our park. We also programmed theme days throughout the summer, including on long weekends to help bring visitors. One of our most successful was our dog-themed Dog Days of Summer, and we had droves. If you look at our hashtag, it's all dog photos. But the day was really fun. It included urban agility training, a photo booth, and splashables. And 1 weekend a month throughout the summer, we invited a partner to host a beer garden within the park. We hoped that this would encourage people to visit the retail park and then stay as they sat and enjoyed their village brewery beer. This really added to the vibrancy and vitality of the space. So through East Village Junction, we feel that we enabled art creation, some street-level programming, and all of it was free and accessible, and we were happy to support the Calgary arts community in this way. The other main benefit of East Village Junction was that it really offered this opportunity for people to explore East Village. So through our development of East Village, people have become very familiar with Riverwalk and definitely associate that with our brand. But East Village is actually 49 acres large, and it was time to encourage people to move through our full community and build awareness of the full development that we have going on. So this included building awareness of Studio Bell, which opened a couple summers ago in July 2016, and seeing the amazing progress on New Central Library, which is opening next fall in November of 2018. And then we also were able to create a new storytelling space through our orange shipping container called East Village Connection Pod. So our amazing ambassador team that I mentioned earlier were able to be there sharing the story of the progress of the community and reached a new audience of 7,500 people in that space. And as just a little side benefit, for those of us working in and around East Village, we were very happy to have some additional lunch options through the rotating selection of food trucks. Biggest learnings. One of the biggest ones, which I think everyone could expect, is the more time the better. So we were able to deliver East Village Junction in 6 months, but it was definitely a tight timeline. Really, we feel as though an ideal time frame would have been a year or more. Luckily for us, all of our suppliers and partners, including the City of Calgary, agreed that this was an interesting and innovative project and really worked closely with us to execute on our short timeline. The other thing is that there are unlimited options for container modifications, and we really had to determine what was reasonable within our goals and budget on this project. So there's a huge range of options from full-on permanent luxury modular construction, such as what you would see at Fox Park in London, or if anyone's visited the downtown container park in Las Vegas, to small and temporary installations, such as all the tiny homes that you see popping up everywhere. So we did have to find that balance of what aligned with our brand and fit our goal of a temporary retail market. We also learned a lot about what kind of retail mix works. So we curated a selection of 11 retailers that fit within our vision. Some signed on right away and trusted our plans, while some weren't quite sure what to expect. But what we found was that the apparel shops and the bike shop were the most successful, while businesses that required high volume sales encountered some challenges. As mentioned, we were very happy with our traffic numbers, reaching almost 50,000 people throughout the summer, but we did find that some of the visitors were interested in the project and taking photographs, and were not always in a buying mindset. So our biggest wins, we met our objectives, and in fact exceeded our objectives, of advancing the retail strategy and placemaking efforts in East Village, increasing our community vitality through additional traffic and activation. We were able to create some unique marketing content that inspired innovation and creativity, and we were able to refresh some of our annual East Village events and programs through a new format and in this new location. As a side win, we were very lucky and very happy to see that people loved taking photos of East Village Junction. So everything from being featured in the fashion photo shoot in the October issue of Avenue Magazine to engagement photos, including one of our own CMLC staff. So next steps, we have these fun, brightly colored containers all fitted out for retail use, and we still have this location available. So what's the opportunity for 2018? We know that we have the tools to tell people about East Village Junction. We know that there's public interest in the project, and we know that we know how to program and activate the space. So the key for our next steps is to find the retail mix that works best. Since we're not a typical landlord and believe that placemaking and community building are priorities, we want to ensure that we understand each retailer's needs for success. So one of our opportunities that we see for next year is that we found a lot of success with community groups who hosted pop-ups in East Village Junction that are more program-based and were able to use this space as an interactive activation area. As we work through our business plan for 2018, we are considering these questions and opportunities and putting together our next innovative iteration of East Village Junction, and we will begin work on executing the plan for 2018 starting in January. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Joanna. So that concludes the formal presentation portion of the evening. So I'm going to invite all of our speakers back up onto the stage, and we're going to open up the floor to questions. Phil, I'll start with you. So maybe you told us a little bit about some of the different community building activities that you've had in your cafes over the past few years. So maybe you can describe just what some of those activities are that you've brought in to sort of activate those spaces in a different way.
So there has been, in the Simmons Building, we've done a number of things, specifically in our cafe. So we've done some formal programming. We've done a number of different speaker series. One of them is called Local Heroes, and that's where we've brought mostly different business owners into the cafe to talk about the process behind founding their business and a bit of their story. Some examples of those are Graham from Toolshed Brewery, that's one example. Another one is Billy from Village Ice Cream. So those are, for example, two people we brought in for that series. We also did another series which is sort of called How Stuff Works, or it was sort of behind the scenes, answering sort of some maybe scientific questions about, I don't know, something you might want to be curious to know about. I'm trying to, that one we ran for a really short time. We did some things like chess nights. We got sort of some traction in some of them. I think we did some more interesting stuff in one of our other cafes, actually, on 4th Street, where we ran some cocktail nights. We ran a comedy series that was kind of interesting. Sometimes I have to get them to tone down a little bit. Pretty excited. That was also really interesting. And then we ran, my personal favorite that we ran was this sort of roving chef series, where a chef from a really well-known Calgary restaurant would set up in our kitchen, in our mission location, and take over the kitchen for the night, and then create a little dinner, and they were super fun and interesting. So yeah, we had some really good restaurants. John and Connie from Charcot Char Bar did one. Darren from Shokunin did one. We had the Cookbook Cove, you've heard that. Dale did one. So we did, that was a really fun event as well. A lot of this programming we've actually discontinued. I'm sorry to say. It was really, it was a bit of an experiment for us last year to really just like push it hard. And we found it to be like really rewarding, and I think we built a little bit of momentum. But at the end, we sort of did a review of our budget this year, and we're like, like the cost of it against the cost of those community programs. So what we will continue doing, and I didn't get too much into this in my talk, is one called the Community Cafe. And that's a roaming cafe that we've moved around the city, and we actually did one pop-up at the drop-in center, which was really a neat experience. We spent about 6 hours there making lattes and cappuccinos for homeless people at the drop-in center. And for a lot of those people, it was actually the first time they ever had a drink like that, ever in their entire life. I've never seen more grateful people. That was pretty awesome, pretty rewarding. So that one we hope to continue to do. That one won't always be located in a location like that, but so those are less tangible, I guess you could say, financial outcomes, more just sort of community building opportunities. Continue with those. So.
Great, interesting. Any questions from the floor? No? Okay, so Mike, I'm going to come to you next. As one of our newest retailers in the community, maybe you could speak to some of the biggest challenges or surprises that you've encountered in the last 4 months of being operating in the village.
So definitely the biggest challenge is we're in a redeveloped area that has a 10-year plan. So one of the biggest challenges is until all of this area is developed, it's getting our name out there and getting enough momentum to keep playing our staff and doing all the marketing that we need to do, simple as the next order of beer. So that's always going to be, I think it's going to be a challenge for the next few years, and we've, like I said, kind of talking earlier, done as much as we could in terms of marketing, but it's one of those ones we'll keep dealing with. And I don't know if there's any easy answer. I think one of them is making connections in the neighborhood. It's when people come in and say, oh, someone from Chargar just sent us over here, said you're a great spot to try, or bring them over here, someone with us, and those are the kind of things that help. So the word of mouth, support from the community in that sense. The pop-up part was amazing for us in the summer because so I didn't know the numbers until tonight, but 50,000 people is staggering. And we put a sandwich board sign right out there in the street so people could see us and come over and have a look at what we're all about. But 100% of the challenge is just getting more people in the door, getting your name out there, and becoming known for the kind of stuff that we want to do.
And do you find you get cross promotions from some of those craft brewers whose product is in your store? Do you find support there?
Well, they'll do on some level. They'll do a lot just to have the product in the store. So of course they will be there. But so my day job. So I'm not fully involved in this yet. Hopefully, another challenge will overcome. But it is downtown across the way here, and so in the company I work for, you hear a lot about collaboration. And I've said this to people in the organization, but I never really understood it as much as I did when I started going out and talking to brewers, because you think, okay, you're actually working alongside it. I'm not in competition with brewers, but many of them are, but they don't see it that way, and they see it as if you keep moving this craft movement forward, you're actually going, it's a win for all of them. So they absolutely, I felt that same kind of support from any brewer that I went to in the city to talk to learn about, whether it was Ben and Pete telling us how to set our taps up, or Village that sat down with us and had some strong words of encouragement right from the beginning. So it was, they were absolutely more than happy to share and help. And I have an email that still sends from one of them saying, yeah, we'll make you a success. So that's a great thing.
Awesome. The spirit of collaboration might also be the secondary theme of this evening, I think. Bryn, are we?
I have a question.
Oh, Susan.
Sorry. I just wanted to ask maybe each of the panelists, maybe not so much Phil, because I understand Phil's scenario, but Mike, for you, ladies, for you, Heidi and Nikki, how many of your customers are coming by car, or how many are walking, and what's the discussion on parking? Can you talk that through for us?
Yeah, I mean, I can start. I don't have great percentages to share with you, but anecdotally, a lot of the people that we have are people who walk from the community. So it's more and more people coming from over from Evolution saying, like, oh God, we didn't know about you, but now we know. So it's a lot of people within the community. I have conversations with people on the other side of City Hall, people on my team that said, well, we would come to your place, but it is hard to find parking. So that has been something that's come up, and I kind of respond, there's a giant parking lot across the street from us. So obviously that won't be there forever. So I do think parking is going to be an important part of the development of how the East Village grows. But at this point, I don't know if that's quite a hurdle that I would say for people to come to the store.
I think I would have to agree that I don't think parking is a huge hurdle at this point. We do get a lot of foot traffic during the day and on the weekends, but I do think there's still a fair amount of people that are driving down. We certainly see a lot of people pull up, hop out of their cars, come in, and go again. The biggest parking frustration that we hear is the meters. Where's the machine to pay? Because for whatever reason, there isn't one on our block. But it does bring people in to ask the question, and then they shop. So I feel like maybe don't install one.
Well, CMLC is not in charge of parking meters. But we won't put it in anymore. There was a question over here.
Hi, I had a question just about seed funding. So if you wouldn't mind sharing kind of where or how you guys got your initial funding base from, and if that was a challenge at all. And even within the community today, do you find that's a challenge for new entrepreneurs in the city of Calgary to start their business? And yeah, where would you find those pockets of money?
Good.
Well, we owe the bank a lot of money. We never had any like seed funding, but also like family loan we got because we couldn't qualify. Being a brand new business, we have a history of being in the retail industry. We came from the food industry, so we know all about credit. Yeah. So we got a bit of financing from the bank. It's like actually a good loan for small business, so we able to do that kind of thing. And then luckily we're fortunate enough to have family that believed in us enough to give us the loan, which will never pay back.
So for us, like I'd say if you have a new business idea and you can get through a business line, I would always encourage going to the bank. And at least you'll learn a good lesson regardless of what comes out the other end or not. The other part for us that we looked into a lot was what kind of federal programs existed that we could leverage that often have different terms than if you went straight to a bank for a commercial loan. But at the end of the day, I think the biggest piece is like I went out to friends and family and I just kind of started with the smallest group that I thought was possible. And then as the budget grew, we would keep drumming up interest as it went. But friends and family, first place for sure. Thanks, great education, and then federal and Alberta programs. There are a lot available out there if you're willing to put the work into them.
There's number 2.
So my experience is actually pretty similar, just probably a few years before. But we were fortunate enough to actually have a little bit of money saved up, and our initial operation was pretty modest, so sort of a smaller budget to begin. And then that allowed us to basically hit the ground, prove our concepts, and then we developed a pitch package basically to go approach investors that were former colleagues, friends, family, and sort of starting again a closer inner circle and then growing wider. But you know, the key being that we had something that we already could demonstrate in terms of success, and then we had a really solid, mostly financial, because I think that's the key to business plans, the financial side, a really solid financial plan in place to be able to demonstrate that what we were asking for was viable. And then we've gone through many other rounds of investment, and now we have bank loans and things like this now, but that's how it started.
Thanks, guys. Was there another question on the floor?
I have a quick question for the group on what your perception of your clientele over the summer compared to winter months would be tourists who are new to Calgary, visiting people here in Calgary and wanting to come down here to see what the buzz is.
Take out 2.
I guess I'll go first since I have the microphone already. Good question. So
Check. Oh, 2's good.
I would say, I mean, probably the Simmons Building is a little bit different than what you guys have, but for us, we're really fortunate that the Simmons Building is, people are curious about it. They hear a Simmons Building, let's go check out what this is all about. It is definitely somewhat of a tourist destination. So in the summertime, I think that's really a year-round thing, though, not just summer. In the summertime, it was actually the local programming that was really awesome, that drove the droves of traffic. What you guys were experiencing with the Container Bar, and with various, I mean, East Village is one of the most actively programmed areas of the city with really cool events, and that's been really, really important to be able to drive new people into our doors. So we have a tourism component, which seems year-round, and then this great programming that East Village is doing that's been driving new business. And then aside from that, it's the traditional word of mouth and the repeat customers that you get through more of a normal, typical operation.
So we haven't been through winter yet, so I'm not sure I can tell you. I do anticipate, or I believe that beer is a lot easier to sell in the summer. Hot day, it's pretty easy to sell. But I don't think that would be tourism either. I think the hostel is right across the street there, and I see just as many people coming in, into the colder months as people I'm sure are wanting to go out and see the mountains and snowboarding and skiing. So I think there's still lots of tourism to be had. I know the hotel beside us sends a lot of guests over still now. They're busier than ever from my conversation with Rob over there only a week ago. So I'm not sure the East Village is going to be reliant on that, seasonal tourism, but certainly for our sales, we have to just focus on our marketing in the winter.
Yeah, I don't know if seasonally, we get a good mix of tourists and people that live in Calgary. Even on the weekends now, after we've been open almost a year and a half, we still get people that haven't been down to the East Village, and summer was really great ever since the hotel opened. I think we've seen an increase in tourists coming in, and I think it'll just get better, not necessarily just in the summer, but with people coming and going to the mountains. It's just such a good mix, and Phil said, with the East Village putting on all these events all the time, it's just bringing people in from different neighborhoods that normally wouldn't come downtown, people work downtown and then they leave. But it brings people in on the weekends, and from the suburbs that normally wouldn't venture our way. So I think it's just a great mix of people that live here and people that come here and visit. So there's
Like local tourists.
yeah, local tourists. Yeah, exactly.
From an East Village Junction perspective, you can probably tell that we're closed for winter, so I can't speak to what that traffic is like. But definitely over the summer, we saw that similar mix of residents within East Village, as well as a lot of local tourism, people from the suburbs or from the adjacent communities like Okotoks and Airdrie and Cochrane. And then we actually did see a huge success with the larger tourism traffic. We were able to distribute our pamphlets through Tourism Calgary to all of their remote communication bicycle hubs that they had. And so we did see a high quantity of true, larger national tourists as well.
Great, okay. Any other questions from the crowd? Well, just on the notion of the seasonal notion of that discussion, and perhaps this is more a question for Nikki and Heidi, but how have you curated the selection of what you offer in the store, whether seasonally or by, if you've had to make modifications as you've seen customers come in and residents into the village in terms of what your offerings are in the store?
Seasonally, other than Christmas, people were actually asking us in August, when is your Christmas stuff going out? We're like, whoa. But our customers suggest to us all the time, do you have this? And we're like, oh, we don't, but maybe we think about carrying that product because maybe it's something we never thought about. So definitely open to hearing what people have to say, what they want, what things they're looking for, and then just keeping an eye on the product that we currently have, what sells and what doesn't, and why it doesn't, and then maybe we make changes based on that.
The same within the beginning, if someone had a suggestion, we probably would have jumped on it like within 5 minutes after them leaving. We would have been like, oh my god, why don't we have this? And now we wait at least a day. At least. But yeah, suggestions are welcome.
And Mike, how about from a beer perspective? I know there's lots of seasonal craft beers. How often are you changing your taps and curating that selection for people?
Yeah, our selection changes probably 5 beers, 6 beers a week. So a lot of, I think the customers really determine what's going to be on the board because what's popular is obviously what we try to focus on. But of course, in October there's going to be 200 pumpkin beers in the AGLC, and then the spice beers start coming out and through the winter. Porters and stouts obviously are much bigger. More people are coming in for them. So yeah, we follow and open the styles up a lot more depending on the seasons, but you still have all the basics and all the ones that everyone would look for regardless of whether they're in a season.
Sure. Okay. Any other questions? We can pass around before we wrap up. Oh, right over here. And one in the back will come to you next.
Hi. Just out of curiosity, when you were 10 years old, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Everyone has to answer that question.
Specifically 10, okay. I never really had a clear answer for that, actually. I know that, can I answer a different question? In high school, I actually did really want to be an engineer. And I figured that out in high school. And then going through university, I loved engineering. And then it wasn't actually until I got into the working world where I loved the problems of engineering, I loved the challenges of them, but there was aspects that were missing for me. There was a social aspect I didn't quite feel fulfilled in. And then there was just also something too intangible about the kind of engineering I was doing. So, those points of dissatisfaction kind of culminated in the eventual creation of our business. But for me, I never had a completely clear answer to that early on. I think that's partly also informed the way we've operated our business. I like the notion of obviously planning and preparing for the future, but I also like the notion of remaining open and accepting sort of opportunity. And I think sometimes we get so fixed in our ways of thinking that we might lose or pass on opportunities because we have this fixed plan or this fixed idea of what the future holds. But I think remaining open can actually be a powerful concept too.
So when I was 10, I definitely wanted to be a professional hockey player. For the Flames. And, it's a tough question, and I don't know if I had a clear answer when I was 10. I honestly don't know if I had a clear answer until 6 months ago. You kind of change, and one thing I guess I've always known is that there's definitely something more fulfilling about being able to do something on your own. You see all the benefit and all the excitement. You feel all the risk. But you also get to have 5 amazing staff, which I was talking about earlier, and there's something, I think, more fulfilling that I've found in being able to kind of go at this. I've been only 4 months in, so maybe I'm talking, and then 2 months later I'm going to be crying myself to sleep. But I think that's honestly true. It's something about starting your own and really taking a big risk. And it sounds cliche, but it's the things that you don't do, you regret the most. And I'm really glad that my team kind of took this step and tried to start.
I don't actually think I ever wanted to be anything specific. When I grew up, all I knew was that I wanted to be comfortable and happy. I never aspired to be a millionaire, which drove my father crazy. And I just just wanted to be happy. And I worked for 13 years in jobs that I fell into and made me happy in the moment, but just were not fulfilling, which is how I met Heidi over drinks. And we just, yeah, I don't know. That's a really tough question because I don't know how many people really know exactly what they want to be when they grow up. I feel like I know now, but who knows, in 10 years that might change, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of like, don't really know if I knew what I wanted to be, but I grew up in a very small town, Saskatchewan, so at one point I very much wanted to be a flight attendant to get the hell out of that town. But after I came to life, I changed my mind 8 times after that, but I remember that was one vivid memory I wanted to be a flight attendant, just to see more, because the town I lived in had about 600 people in it, and it was in the middle of nowhere, so just be able to travel, which I love to do now, but yeah, I do love what I'm doing now, so we'll see. No, what's happening.
I also have no idea what I want it to be. I feel like I should ask my parents who are sitting over there to see if they can remember, but I definitely can't. But I do know that in high school is when I realized that my true passion was through some volunteering I was doing through a leadership program, which was around event planning and building community through events and programming. And I actually feel super fortunate because I didn't originally get my education in that, but I'm now at this point where I've been able to build a career around building community through events, and I'm pretty happy with that.
Awesome. I think there was a question in the back. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just have one question. And since we're talking about placemaking, as the businesses in East Village, you get to experience its community every day. But I was just wondering, what do you think East Village needs more of to build more community? Is it more residents, more people? What are maybe some of the gaps that you see?
A wine store?
We were talking today at lunch about how we really want to see a Vietnamese or a pho place. That would be pretty awesome.
So it's a tough question. I don't know if it's, I would say it's a secret formula of A plus B plus C, but I would say more of the boutique, the village style retailers that we're seeing now. I think that along with the development plan behind all East Village is going to see a lot of success over the next few years.
So when we first opened the Simmons Building, there was nothing around. And so one of the big things we needed to do when we were first talking about the lease, it was like 2013. There was truly nothing around. And so one of the big things about this project is you have to believe. You have to believe that the vision that's being laid out is actually going to be executed on. I think that CMLC actually has established a pretty darn good track record of delivering on vision and maturing and evolving that vision. So I think that for me, I actually see lots of things that East Village still needs, but I also see a well-established roadmap, and I recognize these things take time. And again, seeing a completely vacant area around the Simmons Building when we started, and now these high-rise towers being built and people moving into them and living in them, and a hotel being built, and so all these things actually happening. It's like, okay, I believe, yeah, this is going to happen. And so I think it's just a matter of like continuing to believe that the plan that's in place and being executed is going to happen and come to fruition, and also recognizing it takes time. Like building a community from effectively nothing takes time. So knowing that, okay, we're on a great trajectory and we just need to be a little bit patient. It's great, it's going to be even greater.
I can maybe just touch on that from a CMLC perspective. And we've heard a lot, and the focus of tonight is obviously around that village format piece of our retail strategy. Recognizing that there is a balance to that, and that's that urban format. And so while the village format piece has sort of unfolded first and quickest for us and will continue to be an important part of that story, it's also looking at that urban format delivery where people who live in the community still have a place for groceries, or they have a bank nearby, or they have a place to pick up shampoo. And so that type of delivery, which we'll see first and foremost with 5th and 3rd, which is RioCan's retail center that's under construction. It's trying to find that appropriate balance, and so that we're supporting the retailers that we have today and also recognizing the needs of the community when it's fully built out and we grow from 3,000 residents to over 11,000. So that's, from CMLC's perspective, that's a big part of the puzzle as well. Any other questions? Okay. Oh, no? Okay. So thank you, everybody. Just in closing, first and foremost, thank you to our speakers for their time and insights tonight, for joining us. For us at CMLC, the retail story is exciting, and the best part of it is that it continues to unfold. So you'll hear us talking more about the activation of this building that Susan mentioned earlier this evening, and what the new story will be in the delivery of, or the new story and chapter for the St. Louis Hotel on this floor and in the basement below us. And we'll start to describe more about the retail story that will unfold in the new Central Library building opening next year. And for the brides to be in the room, there's a rumor that there's a bridal store coming to our neighborhood soon. So follow along. We will continue to share all this information and hope you'll join us along with that discussion. So thank you very much.